What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Hardwood Show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm back with Titletown. It's just a two-man booth right now. They took Big T away from us. I am hearing, though, there's a chance someone else is going to pop on in the middle of the show, so stay tuned for that. We'll see who jumps in with us, but it's just me and Title right now. How's it going over there, Title?
It's going well. Two-man booth. We got a 6-game slate. We'll be able to hammer it out for sure. If you look at the slate, how I look at it always this late in the year, you look at the start times, you look at the injuries. There's only one start time at 7 Eastern today, and then the next are at 8 Eastern. So if you got baseball lineups at 7:05 Eastern and stuff to get done, just know that you have an extra hour after lock after this first one does.
Yeah, I do think that this is a nice little slate. I kind of like having that hour in between. Gives you some time to make sure you play the first game, you plug in the guys you like, right? And then you have time to kind of button some things up and figure it out, take care of your MLB. So I do not mind that at all. I do like this slate. I think it's a pretty good little 6-game slate. Before we kind of dive into that, we'll talk about a couple things. You guys could please hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. It helps us out a ton. Also, if you are looking for Big T, I know he's on the graphic. You're not being catfished or anything. It's just he got stolen from us, okay? He's going to be on the Up the Lock show with JSU, with K Phallic. And if you want to check out that show, if you want Big T's takes towards the end of the regular season here, all you got to do is sign up for Run Pure Sports. So go to runpuresports.com. Use the code RPSKeeter25, get you 25% off your first payment. If you're someone that's into sports betting, use the code GETBETS and you get the bet side for a month for free. So if you're someone that likes to do some sports betting, be sure to do that. We also have a YouTube channel for sports betting called Run Pure Bets. I did a show for it today with JSU. Me and JSU did the show yesterday. We went 3-0 on our bets. The 3-team parlay hit as well. So that was awesome. And Titletown or Hoop, I think they're on Thursdays. AP hits it on Friday. We got people on all different days, and we'll be breaking it down for the playoffs as well. Titletown, talk to me a little bit about some of the stuff we have at Run Pure. You do the MMA content. Again, we have everything at Run Pure Sports. We don't just have NBA. We don't just have MLB. We have it all. So tell some of the people why they should sign up for Run Pure.
Yeah. First of all, I see in chat Katie Ann, who did win the membership. She said she emailed at info@Run Pure Sports. She said she typed an A instead of S in sports. Make sure you typed it right. Otherwise, send it again. We'll be in touch with you. It is info@Run Pure Sports, right, Mangone?
Yes, that's correct. Info@Run Pure Sports. Yeah, that should work. Worst case, like if you are having trouble using that, like feel free to DM the Twitter account as well. Yeah. You can find us many ways to get in contact with us, but info@Run Pure Sports is the way to get in contact there.
Cool. Then we got a bunch of content at Run Pure. We got MMA's on Saturday. Hopefully this week. I mean, it's a huge card. We're doing a live show for it too. Hopefully it goes better than last week does, but MMA, NASCAR, we got hockey. The guys have been grinding and crushing it. We have soccer every day. League of Legends, I know, is in action. You name the sport, if they got a prize pool for it on DraftKings, FanDuel, we have the sport. So make sure to check it out. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, we'll break down. We're doing these free shows. I know they are coming to an end for NBA. It's been a fun year. I think JSU said we might have some Hardwood playoff shows. So keeping the lookout for that. We'll have NBA throughout the summer, but tons of content at Run Pure Sports.
Yeah, we actually talked to JC a little bit about that today. So we are going to have some Hardwood shows. So I think they will be here, but it depends on the slates. And of course, if it's just like one game, right? We're not going to have a show for one game. Yeah. But we'll have some stuff for that. And of course, we'll have MLB stuff for you as well. You did mention hockey, right? And, I found my way to some hockey winnings this year. So that was awesome. You can use tons of DFS game theory over there at that, which is definitely something that I took over there. I've watched hockey in my day. I used to actually play a lot of FanDuel hockey way back, Title. You probably weren't playing DFS then, and I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun, but things change, industry changes, right? Hey, some of the game theory that I've learned from talking to guys like Big T and JSU, I use there and definitely helped me take some stuff down. And
it's similar to baseball. You stack lines, you stack teams, you get an assist, you get goals. It's very similar. Yeah, it's the same concept as that. So, and the guys are Matty Ice and EJ have absolutely been crushing it. I see people talking about soccer in the YouTube chat too. Jaime's been absolutely crushing that. Just a great team.
Yep. And one thing I loved, again, like using Matty Ice's cores, and like even afterwards, I kind of asked him about it. Like, how did you I kind of like found out like how he kind of like got to doing that. And there was some game theory to it, and also some uniqueness as well with the team. Like I had this one dude that's like I think it was like part of like one of the power play lines. And he's also part of the power play lines, but also was part of like line 3. And the idea was the game could blow up completely and your guys could eat there and he could eat on the power play. And the guy that I had, the really cheap guy that was part of it, he could also do really well on the back end if it's a blowout because he plays more ice time. And it also made me unique. Like I had one guy I know who knows hockey was kind of making fun of my team, but I was like, I love the uniqueness of that team because there were a lot of Vegas stacks that night, but mine was unique in that way. And it allowed me, because I played such a cheap guy, it allowed me to get all the way up to some other stacks with it that weren't able to work together. So again, tons of game theory that you can use. Run Pure is the place to be. There's tons of ways to do that in MLB, and just getting in the Discord chat and having conversations about it. Like maybe someone takes down a lot of money, right? JSU has a big day. Hit up JSU and be like, hey, like, can you like ask me about like kind of how you got there? Maybe ask some questions like, why did you play this player? We're happy to answer those questions and help you out. Again, use the code RPSHeater25 to get 25% off your first payment. But that's enough about all the RPS stuff that we have here. Let's kind of dive in and talk about the games. And there we go, right on cue. Philip James, basketball. Philip, we'll get there. Don't worry. I mean, we got 6 games to talk about. We're going all the way till about 6:05, 6:10.
I'm surprised it lasted that long. I was waiting for a comment to come because no one wants to hear, and people don't want to hear hockey. Hockey's a great sport, though. We have plenty of time. 2-man booth for now, but the comment did come in later than I did expect.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Title. Again, I'm a basketball guy too, but I hopped over to hockey for the one time a year, right, during the NBA break, and I took home some cheese, and that could be you, right? That could be you during the summer, hitting up some NASCAR on a Sunday when you're bored, right? So, we have tons of great content there for that, but let's definitely talk about basketball. There's a lot to talk about, and this first game has a lot to talk about. So I started the cash chart. I haven't finished. I'll probably finish the updates here while we're on the show, Title. But I started off with our boy Russell Westbrook, right? On the Wizards here, price has gone up, 12.4K on DK, 12.6K on FanDuel. What are you doing with Westbrook today? I mean, I think with Beal in, I think people would consider the fade more. Without Beal, I still think you're getting some pretty high ownership, but I don't care. If you're the guy fading them, I want to be playing you. I want to go up against you when you don't have Russell Westbrook in your lineup. You can make some arguments that the Hawks isn't the greatest matchup in the world, but it's definitely one that I want to be on top of. What are you doing with Russell Westbrook? And then what are you doing with the value plays with Bradley Beal out on the Wizards side?
Yeah, Russell Westbrook on DraftKings. Wow, they finally priced him 12.4 and not the 11K that it seemed he was capped at for the past couple of weeks. Still 12.4 for what he's been in recent form. They still want to win. 12.4 is still a fine price tag for me. I'm going right back to him on DraftKings where you get dual position eligibility. There's some value we'll talk about. On FanDuel, it's a little more of a question where he's 12.6. There's some other good point guards. Peyton Pritchard's a really strong play today. Trae Young's cheap in this game too, where you only can play 2 point guards. He's not a lock on FanDuel for me, but he's obviously a very strong play at 12.6. Outside of him, there's the value I'm talking about. Washington. Ish Smith is 3.6K. Bertans is 4K. Neto is 4.7K. I like all 3 of those guys. I do rank them Ish Smith, Bertans, then Neto. We saw Ish Smith got a lot of run last game in place of Neto. He got 23 minutes, but he had a longer stint than he usually does. Ish Smith and Neto don't share the court very often at all. So in tournaments, I would cap myself at just playing one of those guys. But I like Neto and Ish Smith. They both have a big role without Beal, handle the ball a lot. Bertans 4K. I definitely like that price tag for him. He's playing over 30 minutes the past 3 games. He always coming in and chucking. Westbrook looks for him at the 3-point line, has a big ceiling on both sides for his price. So 3.6 on GK, 3.7 on FanDuel. I like both those prices. As far as the other side in Atlanta, Trae Young's only 9.1K on DraftKings. He is 8.5K on FanDuel, which is very cheap. This is just a great matchup. It's going to be an up and down game. No one plays defense really on both teams. 238.5 total. I know it's the first game. I know it locks an hour before the rest. There is some injury news we are waiting on, but this is not a game you can fully avoid. Clint Capella on FanDuel too. 7.6K is a very, very good price tag for the stock upside he has too. I won't get there on DraftKings at 8.6. I don't think. Tournaments is fine, but I'm not going to lock myself in there. I don't think. A lot of good plays. I just mentioned multiple on both sites and both teams. It's a very good game.
Yeah, you did bring up a pretty good point, which I didn't realize that they were doing this as much. I thought maybe they were still sticking with it. I know the Wizards love those like 3 guard lineups. They did it a lot with Beal, Westbrook, and Neto, but they're not really doing it with Ish and Neto, which I thought was a good point that you brought up there. I would have expected maybe a little more overlap. I'm not saying that you would have seen it all, right? But it's kind of rare you see Ish, Neto, and Westbrook all together on the court right now, which hasn't been their past strategies, right? Which is opening up some opportunity for some other players. And it's opening up, what is it called, title? Usage, right? And who's that usage going to? Rui Hachimura. And Rui, 19 field goal attempts in his last game, only played 29 minutes too, which like, that's a low number for him, right? You would assume he could be playing. Like if Rui played 36 minutes tonight, you wouldn't bat an eye at that, right, Title?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's what tilted me so much last game. He played 27 minutes. They had Bertans. He ran out almost the whole fourth quarter. They had Gafford and Robin Lopez played the game of his life at center, which limited some of Gafford's minutes. But Lopez, I watched the whole game. I was just laughing. His little hook shot, he always does. But they just had that. They had the rotation, and Rui just didn't get into like 6 minutes left or 5 minutes left in the fourth. And I was like, where is he? I mean, he shot 19 times. If he's going to shoot 19 times again today at 5.3K, power forward and center eligible, he's going to be low owned. He didn't get peripheral stats either. Only 3 rebounds, no assists, 1 steal. And he still had a fine game because of his real points. I think he's going to go very under owned. I like 5.3K Rui in a bounce back spot. 19 shots, 27 minutes. I mean, I expect more than 27 minutes this game. Played 34 the game before.
Yep, and then over on FanDuel, he's at the small forward position, right? And you have to play 2 small forwards, and small forward's not always the best. On this slate, though, right? I'm trying to think of the small forwards. I think Rui's a really strong play over there. You got later on, you have the Utah Jazz, right? Ingles and Bogdanovich. Who are some of the other small forwards? Like, where does Rui rank for you over there? Because I think it's a good conversation now because he's not as cheap on DK. He's a little bit more priced up on FanDuel.
To be honest, he's not even my favorite small forward in this game. I mean, there's Bogdan Bogdanovich, who's 7.3K. That's 1,500 more. I would rather go to him, but then there's also like Keldon Johnson, who's cheap. You mentioned Bohan and Ingles. It's not a position. Yeah, I think I'm going to go a little lower if I'm going to go in that range, or I'm just going to go to the Ingles and Bohan, which is right around Rui's price. But I do think it's a fine tournament pivot. I just feel better with the Utah ceiling. Rui, he's a tournament only for me just because his minutes have been unstable. He hasn't got his peripherals, relying so much on shots. So tournament only. I'm not going to play him in cash. He ranks down the list.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like with Rui, this matchup is not the easiest, but I do think I'm still going to go there and not care about it. But there is some reasons to be semi-concerned about it because you can make an argument that Atlanta, they can get a little bit smaller, right? They can go to the, and not that it's small, but Gallinari at the 4, and that Gallinari at the 4 lineup, that can kind of mess up Rui being at the 4 and hurt him. It can pull him away from the basket, and it just naturally mess up game flow for him. So I worry about Rui in that way, but the field goal attempts are too good. The upside is there. I still am going to him. I think I'm expecting a bounce back from him, but again, it matters compared to other players. And I think it's an easier roster than, the more you talk about it, it's easier roster on DK than it is on a FanDuel. We didn't talk too much about the Hawks side, and we should probably do that. What are you doing with Clint Capella? Specifically on FanDuel, he is 7.6. He's really cheap. DK is only 8.6. And center, I'm not in love with, but things have opened up a bit with this LeBron James being out news. And I am worried about AD. I believe he is not going to play. That's my personal opinion. Maybe he does end up playing out of nowhere. Maybe that's why LeBron decided to sit today, because AD said he was fine and able to go. And they're kind of holding it from us a little bit. That could maybe be going down. But what are you doing there with Clint Capella? I mean, you talked about Bogdanovich. What are you doing with Trae Young? He's in an amazing spot against the Wizards where you could see him have a massive game. So break down some of these other Hawks for me.
Yeah, I like Trae on both sides. He's very cheap on FanDuel, and he's fine on DK. His price, 9.1K, best game environment. Teams aren't playing defense. I love Trae in this spot. Capella, like I said, I like him on FanDuel at 7.6. 8.6 on DraftKings. That price is fine. He has so much upside, but you're locking in another spot that you're going to have to wait an hour. We do have some news that we are waiting for that we probably won't get before this game. Porzingis is questionable. Kyrie's questionable. Christian Wood's questionable. Anthony Davis is questionable. That's a lot of news that you don't want to lock in all your spots, even though this is a good game. So he's going to be low owned in tournaments. He definitely has a ceiling. DraftKings tournament only. FanDuel, he's in play in all formats for Capella. Outside of him, I'm not playing these secondary pieces on Atlanta like Gallinari, John Collins. Yeah, their prices are fine. They could get there. Bogdanovich would be the one I would play, like I said, just because his upside's so massive. He's shooting the ball really well. We know his ceiling is 50 plus, but outside of Trey, Capella, FanDuel, tournaments on DraftKings, I'm not going to have too much of this team.
All right. Yep. Definitely some exposure you can get to the Hawk side. It's going to be interesting how to play it out, right? Because the 7 o'clock game is the first one, and then you have a whole hour until the next one where we could be getting some news. And you never know if we get random news that we're not expecting. It's definitely that time of the year where it's coming. And I did get some word. I know Katie was having some issues, getting that sub. We reached out to her via email. JSU let me know to let her know. I think she even said it in the chat, but want to let you know we're making sure to get back to you there. So be sure to check your email now. It should be there to be able to get that free sub for you to your account and get you signed up on the Run Pure community.
Make sure to get in Discord.
Yeah, make sure to get in that Discord. That's a good thing to mention, and I'll talk about that right now. Tons of great reasons to get in the Discord, not just because of, all the information that we give, right? Of course, we update a ton of stuff in there whenever late news hits throughout the night. For instance, Kenrich Williams, right? He got rolled as someone that was going to be the point guard, and that was big news, and a guy to be sure to get on if you have a roster spot, a guy to be sure to on your late teams, get him on there, right?
I had one. I had it was literally the perfect spot. I had Svi. I was debating Svi and Harris, Jalen Harris on Toronto. And I was like, with all this OKC questionable news and stuff, we might get more news. I'm going to go Svi and just wait. And I had him at shooting guard, and the Kenrich Williams was announced point guard. You put it in Discord and all that too. I had the 100 to get up to him, and he was shooting guard eligible. And he smashed. It was a great call by you. You said if you play in late slate, play him. If you have roster spots, get on him. That's the stuff in Discord. You get an edge. He was 8% in cash games. Saban Lee a couple nights ago, he was 8% cash games too when news broke. It's just
what did he end up being, Kenrich? What was his final score on the night?
He had like 40 plus.
Really? Wow. Yeah. I didn't know he went that big. Because again, it's April or no, we're in May. I'm not watching OKC Kings.
I wasn't watching, but I was following.
Yeah, of course you were. I mean, I'd be following too. I'd be looking at my chow, so I got that 3,500 guy. Because if that news gets announced, right, Ted, if that news gets announced at noon, like he's going to be a 70% on play, and it's a massive edge that you can have. And especially if you're not just in cash games, right? If you're in like multipliers, right? If you're in triple ups, those are huge to get you over the cash line. And sometimes when you have a dud in your lineup, I'm assuming you may have had Luka. I don't know if you did, but that could have been the difference.
The thing is, I won at my head-to-heads that I needed to win because of Willie Kenrich. I need 30. I still didn't cash double ups. I had Luka, I had Steph. My lineup was dust, but Kenrich Williams did get me over the top to get me at least most of it back.
Hey, that matters. Like, I mean, it's crazy to say, but like in the long run, like those min cashes, I know we don't love to celebrate the min cash, but the min cashes in the long run, they add up, and
definitely
it can be the difference, especially when you save your lineup like that instead of just getting an absolute bagel. So that'll wrap up that. Let's talk about the podcast a little bit though before we move into the next game. If you haven't checked it out, we have an MLB podcast 5 days a week, and again, NBA is dying down, and obviously the playoffs is going to pick up again a little bit, but it's a lot more predictable. You don't have to put as much time into the up the lock stuff where you might have time to play some MLB. So be sure to check out that MLB podcast. That's 5 days a week. Title was on it for the NBA stuff. I was on it for some of the NBA stuff. Wouldn't be surprised if we get back on it, but tons of awesome stuff over there. DC does that podcast. Be sure to head on over there, subscribe to it so you get notified when we have podcasts up, and we'll give it a 5-star review as well. Helps us out a ton. But let's move on to the next game. Let's move over to one of the 8 o'clock ones, and we'll go to the Spurs and the Nets because, again, another kind of dicey situation. I don't know exactly how to handle it. We got KD on a back-to-back. How many minutes will he really play? He's definitely an interesting spend-up on this slate, but I don't know how to handle him. I'm assuming Kyrie is out. I know he's questionable. I don't know if they officially ruled him out, but I'm not expecting him to play. And then James Harden is probable. And we got 8 minutes till that 5:30 injury report comes out, so maybe we'll get some more news on a lot of situations. But I'm curious, and I don't think we'll get this news until about 6:30. I think that's when we'll get James Harden's exact minutes. I heard he might play title, not just today. He might play a second game of the 4 or 3 they have left. He might play one more game. So maybe they ease him in on this one, and the next one they give him a little more like 25 or 28 minutes. I'm not expecting the 36-minute James Harden to come out of nowhere, but How are you handling these Nets with the possible Kyrie being out, the Harden minutes up in the air, and KD on a back-to-back?
Yeah, that's the thing. You just mentioned so much uncertainty. Obviously, we can't break it down fully right now with Kyrie questionable, not knowing Harden stuff. But right now, I'm just not planning on playing any of these guys. Russell Westbrook's expensive today, finally, at the price we need him. But you and I both, I mean, I think we're on the same page. You and I still want Russ at 12-4. We know what he can do. It's going to be hard to play that. And then one of these Nets guys, I just don't love the spot for it. I'd rather go to a net like Bruce Brown, 3.9K on DraftKings, 3.9K on FanDuel, who we know is always, he's scrappy. He's going to get the minutes. He gets the peripheral stats, the rebounds, the putbacks, a good price tag that opens up some other stuff. So unless we get Kyrie out, Harden playing 25 minutes, 20 minutes, which I wouldn't expect them to bring it back, I'm not going to get to KD. I'm not playing Harden for this price. I know he's 9-2 on FanDuel, which is interesting. I still think it's too risky though, unless he's a full go, Kyrie's out 9-2, then yeah, I mean, I would like that price tag. But that's how I'm approaching it. Are you different?
So even if the Harden thing I want to talk about real quick. So the FanDuel thing is intriguing because if you told me it's the 36-minute Harden, I mean, we're all saying that's a value play, right? Like JSU kind of said on the bet show, it's like, that's a value even at that price. But I don't think, even if they say to you, like if they're kind of up in the air on his minutes, they don't give you clarity. I don't think you should just be like, let me just play Harden anyways. And the reason why I'll say that and why it concerns me is, what have the Nets done all year, Title? What do they prioritize? They prioritize health. They prioritize health. It's all they do. And I think even if they say that there's an uncertainty, don't be the guy that's like, I just think I'm going to go out on a limb and play like a lower owned Harden and hope he gets 36 minutes. I just don't think they're going to do that. There's no chance in my mind. If they do, I'll just take my L. I'm happy to take the L on that and call it a day. So that's kind of my breakdown on that. And KD, the reason why it's not it's easier to kind of stay away from KD, as I think there's other guys I can go to at the top that I don't need to go to KD right now, right? Like KD in tournaments, I don't hate it. I just don't see them really ramping him up for a massive amount of minutes. It's the Spurs. I wouldn't even be shocked if you see them play KD just because it's a back-to-back, right? And he hasn't played. This might be the first back-to-back he's played since the injury. I wouldn't be shocked if they're just doing it and giving him like maybe 25 or 28 minutes, something really small, which yes, could he do well in those 25 to 28 minutes? Correct. But I wouldn't be shocked if they're doing that just to kind of prepare him for the playoffs, just in case there's ever back-to-backs. I know sometimes with those game 6s to game 7s, they have back-to-backs and maybe they want to at least prep him one time before that. What would you do, Title? Is there a certain ownership percentage where maybe you will go to KD? Because I think this is a straightforward slate, and I don't think you should touch KD here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to touch KD. I mean, it would need to be Harden lower minutes, Kyrie out. I like the Bruce Brown. I like Claxton, who's 3K on DraftKings. I just like the cheap guys more, and I think they're going to be under-owned, I think. I mean, obviously, if Kyrie's out and the minutes are lower, ownership comes out, but I'm just going to go to the cheap guys, get my Westbrook in my lineup, and then I can build from there. Bruce Brown and Claxton are my favorite on Brooklyn. And then as far as the Spurs side, I know we always talk about it. I mean, Spurs are really tough. Jakob Poeltl's 5.3K on DraftKings. I definitely have some interest there. 6K on FanDuel. I think that's fine. If you can't get to Capella, your roster construction lands you in the mid-tier. I'm good with Jakob Poeltl. Been playing pretty good. DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson. I like Keldon Johnson more on FanDuel, 4.3K, that small forward position we're talking about. These Spurs are playable. I think some, like we always talk about, usually one of them or two of them gets there for the price and does well, but they just have so many bodies they rotate, and you never know what Pop necessarily does. Patty Mills, Rudy Gay, Lonnie Walker, all these guys, it's hard to just pick one or two of them and plug them in. So Jakob Poeltl's my favorite on DK. Keldon Johnson's my favorite on FanDuel. If you want a one-off of Keldon or DeMar on DraftKings, you can, but I'm not going to have too many Spurs.
Yeah, and we just got news. Kyrie Irving is ruled out, so that's big news. The chat is now all notifying us. I also got a question in chat. He says, what site is everyone using for rotations? JPAT14. You can go to Popcorn Machine, right? So when you pop on Popcorn Machine, and I can do it right now with you, I guess. Let's look at the Nets game from yesterday. So we'll see what the Nets ended up doing here. I'll go to Brooklyn, type them in, and we'll pull up the game against Chicago. And you pull up the game flow. You can look at the box score and look at numbers, but the game flow is what I like to look at, right? And you get to see when guys were subbed in and when guys were subbed out. And one thing that I noticed, and it's worth talking about here, is Nicholas Claxton, right? So he got subbed in at the 640 mark, right? Which they've been starting out with more of those like Blake Griffin lineups, but I mean, against a guy like Jakob Poeltl, like you might see Nick Claxton start. I wouldn't be shocked if he did, or you might even see him coming a little bit earlier. Say they stick with the Blake Griffin thing and it's like not working to start out. They might go to a guy like a Claxton earlier. I mean, they went to at the 640 mark pretty quick. So would not shock me to see that. I think looking at these game flows is awesome to look at. Also, if you see Mike James was one of the bigger beneficiaries for the Kyrie Irving injury. Kyrie went out. He played 2 minutes, right, from the 12-minute mark to the 10:04 mark. And then what did Mike James do? He played from the 10:04 mark till the end of the quarter. And then what do you know? Mike James played from the 12-minute mark all the way till 42 seconds left. So Mike James, is he on your DFS radar? I think he's in play at the price. There are some better values because we have these Celtic guys, which, again, also Harden is back in the lineup, and we don't know his exact minutes yet. Also, I think Bruce Brown for cheap is an interesting guy that you can go to that could really benefit in this spot. So, Title, how are you breaking down some of these cheap guys here?
Yeah, I like Bruce Brown for sure, both sites, like I said. Mike James, 3K. I mean, this guy is such a good basketball player. I love watching him play. Definitely, he's a hooper. But with Harden back now, that's the thing that concerns me. He got the minutes when Kyrie was out. If Harden was out, Kyrie was out, I would love Mike James in this spot at 3K. I am worried, though, with Harden more ball handling, ball dominant. Mike James definitely excels with having the ball in his hands instead of playing off ball as much. So that's why I prefer guys like Bruce Brown and stuff who they don't need the ball in their hand to get points. They can rebound. They get other stuff themselves. As far as, like I said, I like Claxton. As far as the KD, 9.8K on DraftKings. So that news is good for him. On a normal slate, maybe we have interest there, but you and I both like Westbrook. And then the Boston game with Tatum, he's a very, very strong play with all these injuries. It's not a slate with Westbrook at 12-4 that you can go Westbrook, Tatum, KD. I don't think. If you can, then yeah, but I don't think it's a slate where you can do that today. And that's where I think, for me at least, KD falls down the totem pole a little bit. I do think he's a good pivot from a Tatum, or if you're not playing Westbrook, though, I think he is a good pivot in tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, you could do the jam in those three guys, but like he's the third guy, right? Like if you do it, he's the third guy for sure. It's not the easiest, but he would be on that list for me. And then I do want to talk about, again, the Mike James thing. It depends on the minutes, right? So like if Harden was like, and Anthony Davis just got ruled out, so that's going to mess stuff up too, or maybe a Mike James, you're not even considering more. But again, I think the thing I'm trying to think through is, what if they said Harden's only going to play 18 minutes, right? Well, like that would open up some opportunity for him, and he might just be like the auto replacement for Harden, where there's 48 minutes at the point guard, and he might really assume the rest of those minutes based on how you saw the rotations on Popcorn Machine here. So that's some good stuff to talk about there. We'll obviously talk about the Lakers news when we get there. AD being out is big, though, and going to open up some opportunity, and we'll discuss that. K Fallick will discuss that with Big T and JSU on the Final Countdown show. They'll be talking the charts, so be sure to tune in for that. That's on the premium side. Again, use that code RPSHeater25. There's nothing better to be able to listen to some of the best players in the world talk about their process and things that they're discussing. And, you know, when they talk to each other, it helps them kind of, you know, figure out their lineups as well. And you're sitting there with like an inside look, being a fly on the wall, to be able to hear the conversations and be able to make your own decisions and ask some questions as well about the slate that you might have. So be sure to check that out on the premium side. Titletown, any final thoughts here on this game?
Yeah, we broke this game down pretty good, I think. I like the cheapies more on Brooklyn. Nicholas Claxton and Bruce Brown, I think, stand out a lot. Claxton just on DraftKings. Spurs side, Keldon Johnson on FanDuel. Jakob Poeltl's my favorite on DraftKings. I mean, the Spurs they're playing for something. They want to win this game, so they're gonna roll out. The thing is, even when they do want to win, with Pop how he plays 8, 9, 10, or he plays 9, 10 guys and gets a nice rotation. If the second unit, Patty Mills and Rudy Gay and Lonnie Walker, if they're dominating, he's going to run them out for extended time. And that's what's so tough about the Spurs. You can still see DeJounte Murray play 29 minutes when they want to win. So Jakob Poeltl is my favorite. You can one off some of the other guys, but I'm not going to get too much Spurs exposure.
Yep. I love what you said about Poeltl here. I think it's a really good spot for him. I mean, 5,300 is too cheap. We've seen him at like 6'2" in this spot, like in the past, and he's absolutely crushed. So like that call.
It's just the thing about just like him, he's like any of the other Spurs. If he's on a roll and they're doing it, he could play 35 minutes and he'll absolutely crush. He could also get you 26 minutes, and then you're like, that's just the risk of the Spurs. But Jakob Poeltl, I really like him today.
Yep. And if you do play a guy like Poeltl, make sure to run it back with like some of the guy, like don't run it back with a guy that like is one of those bench nets guys, right? Like run it back with a guy that's going to probably get like significant starter type minutes or close game minutes. And if you are a guy that's like, oh, the Spurs, they're always tough to trust. Well, like, yeah, because yesterday they were getting blown out. So they played Vassell, they played Diop, Trey Jones. They all played those guys in the 4-minute mark, but they'll run a little bit of a tighter rotation if that game is close. And it just depends on how you're building out your lineup. My personal opinion, I'm likely staying away. But if I play one of them, it's because center, you can make some cases for Poeltl. And then maybe a DeJounte Murray at 7-1. But again, I haven't played many Spurs this year. I'm not going to start firing on them too much. This is more of like 150 lineup discussion. Or if you're playing multiple lineups, even 20 lineups, it could make some sense. But that'll really wrap up that game for me. We did get news on the Wizards lineup. It is Westbrook, Neto, Matthews, Hachimura, and Len. So you are going to see the 2-guard lineup, not the 3-guard lineup from the Wizards, like we kind of talked about a little earlier. But let's move on. Let's talk about the next game. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers, which, a lot of these earlier games are some of the better games on the slate. And we can't ignore this Boston Celtics value. Title, Evan Fournier. I believe you said it on one of the shows, and I was laughing because it was kind of true. Like, Evan Fournier looks like one of the worst basketball players in the world right now. And now he looks like Michael Jordan. I mean, he's absolutely out there balling. It's insane. The usage is up. The assists are up. It's crazy what he's been doing. And I think the COVID really did hit him hard, man. I mean, the blurry vision that he had was real. We saw some doctors about it. I do think he's back. I think we need to buy into it, especially with no Jaylen Brown, no Marcus Smart, and no Kemba Walker. Evan Fournier at 5'5", very strong play. Jason Tatum at 9'4", very strong play. And then I think we're going to have to mix and match some Celtics values. But the question is, who are the value plays, Title?
Yeah, so like you said, Pritchard on both sides, phenomenal. I mean, so I'll list if you guys don't know who's out for the Celtics, Kemba's out, Jaylen Brown's out, Marcus Smart's out, Robert Williams is out. Obviously, that's 4 people that have a big role on this team. So that's why Pritchard on both sides is a great play. Tatum on both sides he's one of the best spend ups on the slate. Fournier, like you said, I don't know, something clicked for him. Maybe he can finally see straight. 5,500 is way too cheap on DraftKings. 7-2 on FanDuel. That's where you see the price difference and how good one play or how good of a play he is on DraftKings. He's still in play at 7-2 on FanDuel at this small forward position. A, because small forward's not great, and B, he's just been playing that good with the ceiling. So I like him on both sides, better on DraftKings. The guy I have interest in for value is Aaron Nesmith at 3,200. He gets that shooting guard and small forward eligibility. I expect him to start at the 3. We don't know the lineup for sure, but if he gets to start at the 3, 3,200 guard and small forward eligibility, I have a lot of interest there. He's a good shooter. He's a hustle player, grabs rebounds. It's way too cheap. It gets you the Tatum, the Westbrook. And if you wanted to try and get Durant, it would help you get there. Tristan Thompson on both sides, 5K on DraftKings, 4.8K on FanDuel. He's not a priority, but center's not great today. If you land on him for cheap, I like him. Boston, just a very, very good spot. One of the best spots on the slate for sure.
Yep. Boston's definitely one of the best spots on the slate. You cannot ignore it. Definitely have to go to them. And someone asked in the chat, said, what are the Celtics playing for? They're basically locked into the playing game. Well, they're not locked into it, right? They could still get to the 6. I'm not saying they will, but you know how players are. They're going to fight until the end. And they could get passed by Charlotte if they don't start winning games, right? I mean, if they lose out, Charlotte could pass them if they won out, or even the Pacers. So technically, you want to try and get that 7 spot. It's definitely worth fighting for. So I think the Celtics, they're going to fight for that thing.
And you're also looking at the guys they have too. Like, yeah, I mean, I think they want to win. Otherwise, they would already rotate them. They would have just given them a rest day. But are they going to run out Tremont Waters, Jabari, Luke Cornett? Are they going to run like Carson Edwards? Are they going to run like? They're not deep with all those guys. Those 4 major guys they had a major role in the Celtics. Are they going to roll out these guys that have got very limited minutes throughout the whole year? If they're up 25 or down 25 late in the 4th, probably, but I don't see him just benching Tatum at half or giving them 28 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. I also don't think it's a great idea too, to just sit Tatum for a straight week, right? You are playing those games where it's one game and you go on to the next one. You want to at least be in a little bit of form too, as well. I mean, I'm a believer in that. You want to rest your guys, but you also don't want to just go out there and not have any kind of form at all. So Tatum will probably rest one of the Saturday or Sunday games, and then he'll go and play the next one. I'm sure that's how they'll do it. They'll stagger that.
I'm not going to change how I think about it. I'm going to play these Celtics. Someone in chat asked, can you play Tatum, Fournier, and Nesmith? I think you absolutely can play all three in the lineup, and that's because Tatum feels underpriced at 9, or Tatum is underpriced at 9.4. Fournier is very underpriced at 5.5, and then Nesmith is a full punt at 3.2. That's also underpriced for his role. So these Celtics are in that good of a spot. You can play three of them in your lineup.
Agree, 100%. I also think you might see a weird lineup where like Tremont Waters starts. Like it wouldn't shock me, but like I wouldn't jump to roster him, right? I mean, I think he's fine, but like, and like, would I be shocked if he did well? No, I wouldn't be shocked, but it's not like I'm just going to plug and play him over Pritchard. I think Pritchard could be better than that guy because they want him to maybe run that second unit.
I would still take Pritchard, I think, over Waters coming off the second unit. Like you're saying, it's just there's more usage to go around. I mean, we know what Pritchard is. Stevens loves the guy. He'll close the game, probably.
Yes. Exactly. So that's the one thing to look at there. So you talked about the three guys on the Celtics. You can play all three. Can you run it back with any Cavs title? What are you doing with the Cavs today? We loved them the other day. Do we love them today?
On DraftKings, I don't love them. The prices are right. There's way better spots on this slate. On FanDuel, the two guys I'm only going to Colin Sexton, 7.6K at the shooting guard position. I think he's in play. Jared Allen at 6.5 if you want it, but I think I'd rather go to the Clint Capella at 7.6 or Jakob Poeltl at 6K. So he's in play. I like Sexton more on FanDuel. Not going to get any of these Cavs on DraftKings. I don't think you need a run back.
All right. The chat saying Dean Wade season. Probably not today, but in a couple days. I'm sure the next time there will love one more Dean Wade slate.
We've had plenty of Dean Wade slate. I don't look forward to Dean Wade slate. I think that guy was, I mean, he's in play if you want it, but I'm not going to do it.
Yep, they'll be coming for sure. We got 414 watching. We have 124 likes, guys. So let's get those likes up. That'll help us a ton. We also got a question in the chat from Comment Wars. Pritchard or Nesmith? You can only play one title.
Pritchard.
Pritchard. Yeah, I think I lean Pritchard too. But positions might matter, right? Like I'm wondering because I know Nesmith has that forward eligibility, right?
He's shooting guard and small forward. But Peyton Pritchard's just. He has the ball in his hand way more. He's ball dominant. He really gets it. Brad Stevens loves. I mean, there's more outs for him to get there than Nesmith. Nesmith's not a lock and load at 3-2. I mean, if he starts, he becomes a lot better play. But there's more routes to him failing than there is Pritchard, I think.
Yeah, I agree on the Pritchard over Nesmith, but I'll be intrigued if you can find me a 2v2 where like that other guy that is, if you put Nesmith at the forward, right? And it's like a guard and a forward. Like for instance, if it's Nesmith and Westbrook title, I mean, it's going the Westbrook route, right?
Play both Pritchard and Westbrook. Move on.
All right.
I know what you're saying though.
Yeah, I don't know the combo, but like I would say most of the time I'm leaning Pritchard, but I'd have to see the combo of the 2v2 because that last position could matter at times. But Pritchard definitely the better player, and I like him more. Scott Brooks was talking about Beal. That's nothing there. I got distracted by injury news, but let's see. We got anything else in the chat? No, Steve Anthony's in there. He's saying playing Wade gets me as excited as Maxi Kleber. Which title? You can play one guy. Would you play Dean Wade or Maxi Kleber? That's a great one there.
Well, I usually get 40 minutes out of Dean Wade or 36 when I do play him. Maxi Kleber, I feel like he gets me 28 minutes or something. So I'll go Dean Wade.
Yeah. You know what I miss? I miss the Hartenstein days when he was like 3K and then went up to 6K. Oh, he was so fun to roll.
He always smashed.
Yeah, those were some good times. Speaking of good times, it's good times hanging out with you guys, and we want to keep hanging out with you guys with these free shows. So again, hit that like, hit that subscribe, helps us out a ton. Also, want to talk about what we got over here at the Core Plays, right? If you head on over to the Core Play section, we got some Super Draft stuff. So be sure to check out the Super Draft Core Plays today and head on over there and use the link that's on the Core Plays page, and you get a nice little deposit bonus of $100. Use that code RUNPURE, and you can sign up and get in on that. Again, it's a different kind of DFS format. It's not salary format. You got multipliers. So some of these cheap guys, right? The Peyton Pritchards of the world that we're talking about, they have some nice little multipliers over there. So be sure to check that out. And get in on the Super Draft Core Plays. Again, use that code RUNPURE and use the code RPSHeater25 to get 25% off to sign up today if you have not, to check out those Core Plays. Title though, let's move on to the next game. And again, another good one to talk about. Pelicans and Mavericks. And the Pelicans are getting a little shorthanded here. Lonzo Ball not in the lineup today. So that's some opportunity here. And it gets me concerned about guys like James Johnson who are priced up. You would assume more ball handling opportunities. I'd be excited about James Johnson, but I'm getting a little nervous because I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a really good tournament play and could handle the ball a ton. I think Kira Lewis can handle the ball a ton. And I get worried about guys like Eric Bledsoe because, like, I don't see him playing 40 minutes here. The minutes are trending down. And why wouldn't they give the younger guys looks? So I'm getting a little concerned about some of these guys in here because I think their starting roles are not as secure. But I think some of these younger guys, they're kind of trending upward.
Man, when I saw Lonzo was out, I was really mad because I knew some of these Pelicans would be in play, and Stan Van Gundy, you really just don't know what this guy's going to do. It's very annoying. Like James Johnson, if I knew he was going to get his 34 minutes, he'd be a smash at 5K on DraftKings. I like his price at 4.7 on FanDuel. We just don't know if he can. 4.7 on FanDuel at power forward. James Johnson's still in play. Bledsoe 5.9 on FanDuel. 6-1 on DraftKings. I think he's more in play on FanDuel at shooting guard eligible. If you think they're going to get the 34 minutes, 35 minutes, and they're going to, he's just going to roll out the starters mainly, then they're very good plays. But like you said, he's probably going to, it would make sense to give the younger guys like Kira Lewis, Najee Marshall, Alexander Walker, that is 6,200 on DraftKings. He is, 6,500 on FanDuel. It would make way more sense to give those guys run. I think Kira Lewis is my favorite on DraftKings at 3.3K just because he's point guard, shooting guard eligible. I expect him to get at least 25 minutes. He's the one. They need him. They want him to develop. They think he's good. They think he's the future. They were trying to get rid of Lonzo for have him to step up in the role. What do you predict his minutes at? Because I think that's the big question. I really want to play him. I love the price. He's a good basketball player, but like, is 23 minutes in the realm of possibilities? I don't know with Stan Van Gundy.
You're talking about Kira Lewis, correct?
Yeah, 3.3K. I love the price. Point guard, shooting guard eligible, young guy. I don't know why they wouldn't run him 30 minutes, but they have bodies like Bledsoe, all these other guys. Where is it too risky with the Celtics value? Yeah, I don't have a good lean on this Pelican side, to be honest, because of Stan.
Yeah. So before I mention that, I'm going to say Steve Burnett asked in the chat, I said, just hopped on no Big T today. Big T will be on the final countdown show with JSU. He'll be on with Kay Fallick, and he'll be talking about these minutes, right? Just like we are. He'll be talking about these minutes. So if you want to get his takes, check him out over there on the members show. Again, use the code RPSEater25 to sign up and check it out on the live stream. But
Kevin McClain goes, I hate Stan Van Gundy more than Luke Walton. Kevin McClain, I'm 100% with you. He is my most hated coach by far in the league, if you can't tell.
I will say,
all right, go on.
Taylor, you talked earlier about Stan Van Gundy and not knowing what he's going to do. I think the reason I always see it is because the Pelicans always tweet out his press conference before the game. They always tweet it out. So if you want to know what he's doing, Title, be sure to check that out. The Pelicans.
He doesn't even know what he's doing in that press conference. No chance.
He is the worst. But yeah, so you talk about Kira Lewis. I love Kira Lewis in this spot. I think he gets the minutes. I think he soaks up a ton of them. I think he might even play 30 minutes. I don't know. I haven't looked a ton at what the sites projections are for minutes on him. I know he's popping, but if they're not aggressive on his minutes, I think that's wrong. I think Kira Lewis is going to play a ton. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker too. He's 6'2", but at 6'2", if I told you Nickeil Alexander-Walker put up 45 fantasy points, you wouldn't be shocked, I don't think, and you would want him on your teams. And I also don't feel like the projections are going to like him at 6.2K. And I think he's a really, really strong tournament play that could have a massive, massive ceiling game because he's going to have a lot of ball handling responsibilities. I also wouldn't be shocked if you saw a guy like a Jackson Hayes get some more run instead of a Willie Hernan-Gomez. I just wouldn't be shocked to see more of a youth type movement. I know Willie's kind of younger too, but Jackson's one of those guys that I think they're trying to develop a bit. So I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't even be shocked if you saw the double big lineup, right? That wouldn't surprise me to see them do some of that. I know they haven't done it a lot lately, but they did it at some point in the season. I remember when they started two guys together. I think it may have been Adams and Hayes, and I thought it was dope.
It was.
But they did it, right? And it's late in the year, and I wouldn't be shocked if they experimented with it one more time. So I think there's a lot of interesting guys to look at. I'm not as high on the Bledsoes, James Johnson. I'm more high on the Nas, the Najee Marshalls, the Kira Lewises. I think Kira Lewis is my number 1. Alexander's my number 2. Maybe Hayes at number 3 and then Marshall number 4. That's probably how I'd rank them. I wouldn't even hate Way and Gabriel, but it's probably the wrong slate. It's probably better for the night slate. That's probably a better opportunity maybe to attack that one. But is that kind of how you rank them?
Yeah. I think, I mean, so I rank them different. On FanDuel, I rank them James Johnson, Bledsoe, I think, because of the prices and because of the position eligibility. They just fit some builds. I'm hesitant on them. They're not locks at all, but I do believe I have them both on the cash chart. On DraftKings, I do rank them Kira Lewis and then Nah. I mean, if Nah gets 30 minutes, he's gonna smash. He gets in the game every time and he just chucks. He has the ball in his hands a ton. He runs a lot of pick and roll. He's a very confident player. He gets rebounds. He's a very good basketball player with a ton of ceiling. This price tag at 6.2K, and I think he does get under owned. I think it's more of a stars and scrubs build. It's just literally all the minutes. If he gets me 30 plus minutes, he'd be the SO play right now, and I'd take it to the bank. I mean, I love Nah. I love Kira Lewis. I rank them ahead on DraftKings than James Johnson and Bledsoe. Opposite on FanDuel, but Nah still is in play on FanDuel.
Yeah, so how about we consider running it back, right? What are we running it back with? Like Luka seems like a great run back, right? I mean, it doesn't seem like people are going him today. He's going to be under-owned. You get guards against the Pelicans, which typically works out pretty well. No Lonzo Ball, who is, Lonzo Ball is a great defender, and that's going to obviously help Luka. And it's off of a really sour game. And I'm kind of having flashbacks to like the last time the Mavs got blown out, and then they went out and blew out the Warriors that one game that felt like everyone was on the Warriors. So what do you think of Luka here? Because I do think he's an interesting spend-up option that you just can't ignore.
I'm done burning my money with Luka. Finally, I finally get a slate where I can play Westbrook and Tatum and not have to go down this. I mean, I talked about it yesterday and on the show. I'm like, I would not play Luka in tournaments. No way. He's going to be one of the more popular spends. Blah blah blah. Of course, I play him in cash games, and yeah, we know how that ended. I'm not playing Luka. I feel very good about it. If he beats me, he beats me. Better spend ups. Porzingis on FanDuel is the only one at 7K, but he's questionable. If he's in, I like that price tag at 7K at the power forward position. Otherwise, I'm not going to run it back on either sides.
Yeah, I've definitely done a pretty decent job of like staying away from Luka lately. And it's hard to argue. Like, I get it. Like the numbers are all there, but I've gone to other studs and I feel like I can find a way to do that. Like even yesterday, I love Jimmy Butler and I got lucky. I avoided the injury because I ended up not playing him because I wanted to go to Sabonis because I looked at these stars at the top and I did it from an ownership perspective. And I don't want to ignore completely that Luka could be unowned, right? Like, I mean, he really could not have.
Very true.
I shouldn't say unowned, but like there is going to be an ownership where I consider it because again, he's a star, right? And like people have a sour taste. Like the way you talked about it, Title, is how a lot of people
I know.
feel. And like, it's like people are not rushing to roster him. So in tournaments, I do think it's something to consider. And he has been disappointing.
Go. I was just gonna say it's not like if this was a slate for Luka, I wouldn't I say what I said and how hurtful I'm done burning money and all that. But if there wasn't Westbrook and Tatum and KD on the slate, like maybe I'd have to go back and play Luka. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be that person. I'm not the person that he's burned me the past 2 days. I'm not playing him today regardless. You can't be that person in DFS. It's daily fantasy sports. Every day is new day. Thankfully today though, I don't need to go to him. So I'm happy.
I'll say that like it's easier not to. And like Title and I are probably, I mean, I wish this is why you should listen to the Love the Lock show with K Falik, JSU, and Big T. We're the cash guys, right? And we're laying out the slate for you. Like we're gonna probably go those routes with those two guys. What are we gonna do with Luka? Probably not go to him. I'm curious to hear what they're doing, and I think it's worth listening to their takes and how they're gonna handle it because it's a conversation to have for sure on this slate. I assume Big T's not, but I'm curious to see if JSU is. I think I could see JSU doing it.
No way Big T does. He hates Luka too.
I don't see
we gotta get these likes up a little bit. Only 158 likes. Deesba 19 said, please get the likes up. We appreciate that. I mean, the likes are hurtful. Almost 500 watching. Just hit the like button, hit the subscribe. It takes 2 seconds out of your day. We appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to backload Big T to like another show tomorrow, right? Maybe he won't be on the Out the Lock show because of it. We'll have to see. Hopefully, don't hurt Big T's feelings.
Well, he's not going to hurt the premium members.
Yeah, you're right. Fair enough. I was trying to do my best there, but yes, we're not going to hurt the premium members. You're right, Title. That's a dumb comment by me. What was I thinking? But,
that's all right.
Yeah, of course, we're not going to do that to him, but never know. Maybe we'll do it on the free shows. That's the idea I got. We'll do it on the free shows. We'll backload him even more, not have him tomorrow, but. That'll wrap up that one. There's not too much more else to say. I don't really want to touch too many of these other Mavericks, all these other, secondary pieces. Tim Hardaway Jr., sure, like 6K. Like, I mean, if he gets hot, he'll make some shots, but I think there's way better plays, and I don't need to be playing him.
We mentioned so many good plays to start the slate. I mean, that's why you got to eliminate some teams, the Cavs, the Pelicans. Spurs 1 off or 2 off, but we got to fade someone. This is a good slate for a 6-gamer.
Yep, pretty good slate. And again, I will say the slate's getting a little rougher, but there's still some plays here. We'll go to the Blazers and we'll go to the Jazz. 234 total, and it's a close one. I like the Blazers here in this spot. I on the bet show, I gave out the Blazers money line. I think that they're going to actually come away with this game. We'll have to see. I know Bogdanovic, he's been pretty good, right? The usage has been up for him, and he's really kind of been like more of like the dominant player than Joe Ingles has. I think a lot of people a couple weeks ago expected it to be Ingles, and it hasn't been. It's really been Bogdanovic. Also on the other side, Damian Lillard has became more dominant because it's that time of year where Dame actually takes over and does everything. So, Title, what are you doing with this game? I think there's some opportunities here for some upside. What are you doing?
There is some opportunity on Utah, but the thing is with how good the slate is, we talked about like Boston and some of these Pelicans. Now we have these Lakers with AD and LeBron out and stuff. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go 6.5K for Ingles on DraftKings, 7.5 for Clarkson, 6.9 for Bogdanovic. Just doesn't really fit my build right now with Tatum and Westbrook and stuff. So they're better plays on FanDuel, I think. 6K for Ingles, 4.4K Royce O'Neal at that power forward position, 6.4K for Bogdanovic. You can play some of these guys, or I would limit it probably to one on Utah. One of them is probably going to get there, but with how the slate is, with how much I like other spots, we can't play everyone today. Utah is going to go. I'm not going to have too much Utah, but the better plays on FanDuel. The guys are Ingles, O'Neal, Clarkson, Bogdanovic. They're in play on DraftKings. I'd probably limit myself to one of them, but I don't think my build's going to go there today.
Yeah, I mean, so FanDuel, I think they're more in play, but man, like we know Bogdanovic has a ceiling, and it's Portland, right? Like this is a matchup that you can really feast off them. So it is in play, and I do think Dame is still in play on FanDuel. Like I'm not saying I'm going to fade Westbrook or anything, right, on FanDuel, but like there's like a 3K gap. So like I could see people talking themselves into it. And that's why I think on FanDuel, you could see Westbrook get some lower ownership than on a DraftKings. And again, it's only 2 roster spots too. So that's worth mentioning. I actually toyed with the build late last night. I was kind of just looking and I was like, can you do Dame and Westbrook together, right? Because Dame has a massive ceiling here in this spot that he could easily hit. Again, Rudy Gobert is still in the paint, right? And when Rudy Gobert is in the paint, harder to score down low. And that basically causes more shots from the outside. And when Dame gets hot from the outside, it can be over at times. I mean, he can absolutely light it up. And he can also be an interesting pivot off of a Tatum. Like we talked about maybe pivoting to Luka. Why don't we just pivot to Dame instead if you want to make a pivot off Tatum title?
I think my pivot would be off Tatum. I think it'd be KD, to be honest, if I did do it. I don't think I'm going to go to these Blazers today. If I did go to one side in this game, it would be the Utah side, but it'd probably just be one of them max. Like I said, better plays on FanDuel. My build, I've laid it out pretty clearly. I love Westbrook, like Tatum. There's a lot of value on the slate. So I think my route's going to go more there. And I like an Nikhil Alexander Walker on the Pelicans more than I do an Ingles or Bogdanovic in tournaments today on this slate because I think Na has massive upside. So that's kind of where I'm landing. The Utah's not bad plays, just better plays, I think.
Yeah, here's a good question from Gab Fitz. He said, for DKGVP, would you play Naw and Lewis together, or is it Boston value too good for both? I think you could play both together and some Boston value, but I don't think I would play those two and then ignore the Boston value. Would you agree, Title?
So I don't think, we don't know the starters for Boston yet and stuff yet, but the Boston's not in a complete, I'm not playing 5 Boston players, I don't think today, like I did the Cavs a couple nights ago, or maybe I played 4, but they're not in that good of a spot where you can. So to answer that question, you can definitely play Naw and Lewis together and then play some of the other value. You don't need to. Boston's not that good of a play where you can only pick one or the other. You can definitely play them both. Good prices too. And then you can mix in some Boston too. I'm not going to go overboard on Boston, but the Pritchard, Nesmith's good play, Tatum, stuff like that.
Cool. Good stuff. Listen, I don't have too much else to say on this game. I think there's some opportunity here, but not guys I'm loading up on. Let's go to the next game. And again, that other game was at 9:30. The Pelicans game is at 9. This one's on an island an hour later, 10:30. We got the Showdown content from Rubio. If you like some Showdown stuff, especially getting towards the end of this, time of year, right? With the playoffs coming up, Showdown's going to become more popular, bigger prize pools. We have that Showdown content that you need over at Rumpier. So again, use that code RPSHeater25, get that 25% off, and don't miss out. Get in on the month now and be able to get in on that Showdown content. We got the Rockets and the Lakers here. We have no LeBron James, right? We have no Anthony Davis. And we have a team that is struggling health-wise. I mean, they don't have a lot of bodies left. I think it's going to be Andre Drummond night. We also have on the flip side, because we have now some value that's opened up with LeBron and AD out, we have some opportunity on the Rockets where some of these guys, we could see some players sit, right? We see a Kelly O sit. We could see a Christian Wood sit. I wouldn't be shocked if DJ Augustine or Daniel House randomly sat. I know Daquan Jeffries is questionable. And we have some value here in this game where I don't hate the idea of backloading for some of it, but you have to have a plan. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to play this one guy, and then if he gets ruled out, you don't have a plan. You need to at least think about how you're handling your lineup. So, Title, let's start with the Rocket side. How are you handling these players here?
I think the Rockets are a pretty easy fade. Yeah, on this slate, I'm not sure I need to get to any of them.
See, I think you can, in tournaments, make some plans for them, but the problem is it could not go your way. And there's other better values later on where I want to go for them. But if you're a tournament guy and you want to take a shot on some guys that could be lower on later, I don't hate it. But again, be cautious about it, because if you lock yourself in, if you decide to go to these other players and you miss out on the other values, don't be mad if they go off, because you made that decision, right? And if the news doesn't go your way, you made that decision. Make that decision now. Like, think that all through. I think that is super important. If you're playing those later slates, this Cameron Oliver guy is 3K. And if you need to jam in, like, all the studs, I wouldn't hate it because he got 19 minutes. So if you're playing the late slates, not for the main slate, 3K Cameron Oliver, I don't hate it. I think they're going to give him a little bit of a look. So check that out. I don't want to ignore some Lakers, though, because, again, Andre Drummond in this spot, I really do think he is going to be someone we look at now at the center position at that 6K tag. He could have some big opportunity here. Kyle Kuzma at 5'4". He has some opportunity here, especially against the Rockets that you don't expect them to play a lot of defense in this kind of must-win game. I don't want to ignore those guys. So break it down for me, Title. How are you handling these Lakers here?
Yeah, this Lakers news, broke when we were on the show as much. And before the news, I was hoping one of LeBron or AD would have played. Wouldn't have to worry about these guys as much. But now this open, we need to play some of these guys, I think. Drummond at 6K is a very strong play on DraftKings. 5.4K on FanDuel, way too cheap. Horton Tucker, 3.6K on FanDuel, 4.4K on DraftKings. Caruso is also questionable in this game, too. If Caruso is ruled out, they're really going to need ball handlers. Horton Tucker would be an awesome, awesome play. He's still very strong right now. Caldwell Pope, who I never like, but he's 4,200. He plays a lot of minutes. He gets a boost. Kuzma, like you said, 5.4K on DraftKings. Those are my favorite Lakers. Drummond, Horton Tucker for sure are my two favorites. If you want a really low own pivot for the value, little revenge narrative for the people out there, Ben McLemore, 3,600, shooting guard, small forward. No, he's not on Houston. He's actually on the Lakers. He's been playing 20 minutes recently the past couple of games. Now, LeBron, AD out. If Caruso is out, he'd get a big bump there too, more ball handling. Whoever likes the revenge narratives, this guy's going to come in and chuck like he always does. Some of the Lakers are good plays. I don't know if they're because we've been on the show. I don't know if they're locks or if they're just strong values. If there were locks, Horton Tucker and Drummond are definitely the best two plays on the Lakers on both sides.
Yeah, that's why one reason I think there is some opportunity here to look at some Rockets and Lakers based on how news goes. I think there is some backloading opportunity that could, if it falls your way, it could work out really well. Again, but it could hurt you if you miss out some of these early values, which makes it a really interesting slate. And it's only one game. You don't have a second game to possibly look at just in case. So don't ignore some of these guys. Again, I think you hit on it pretty well. I think if you had to rank the values, Title, it's tough to do right now, obviously without the Caruso news, but I think my top four guys would be Drummond, Kuzma, THT, and KCP. And I'm leaning Drummond is my top guy right now based on the position and not really knowing who's in and out, right? But I think that's kind of my top four guys. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely those four guys. THT and Drummond are definitely the tier above the Pope and Kuzma for me, but those are my favorite four.
Yeah, and I'll say this. So I see Mr. Patrick Rice says, I hope Fournier turns back into Fournier tonight and he busts everyone's lineups. Chalk Fournier sounds sweet. Patrick, I don't think
he easily could. He really could. I was watching him yesterday. He had a great game and stuff, but he banked in a three. He banked in a couple stuff. It's risky, but if you're fading Chalk Fournier, the price is really cheap. I get it. He's going to be chalky. He's going to be overowned for a reason, but you're not fading Westbrook chalk at 11K. You know what I mean? you can get there's times Chalk Fournier doesn't work. Yeah, I know it's not the slate. I don't know. Maybe it's not the slate. You can talk about it more, but Chalk Fournier, those two words don't always go together.
You know, the other problem I have with the title, he's guard and forward eligible, where there's a lot of opportunity to roster him. If he was only locked into the shooting guard spot, I think it'd be a little bit different because you can make a case for Akira Lewis, right, at the shooting guard. You can make a case for one of those Celtics values getting there. There's so many spots where you can put him throughout your lineups, right, where, yes, the ownership is going to go up because of that. But if he has a good game, right, like, he's got more chances to go into the lineup, right? And like get there. And let's say, for instance, that Fournier had like 35 fantasy points, right? Which at that price is good. But if there were other shooting guards that got you there where you didn't need him for cheaper or like a raw points play, like then he wouldn't be needed, but you could easily then throw him in your forward spot and then it works. So that's one of the issues I have with it. And that's why I think Fournier is a guy you definitely want to get on your teams tonight and get some exposure and be overweight on. Someone asked about Kira Thomas, which like I've definitely liked him. I've definitely been in the camp that he is someone that's going to be getting opportunity. I think he makes some more sense on FanDuel. I played him the other day at 4.8 on FanDuel, and he had like 28 fantasy points, and he got me there. And I was quite happy with the performance. What do you think of him? Because 5.6K, he's had 30.25, 52.75, and 31. A guy that I don't want to ignore, and the Rockets like a little bit. And you see these guys late in the year that kind of get it done. So what do you think of him here in this spot?
I think he's a better play, like you said, on FanDuel, 4,500 on DraftKings on a slate like this, where I like a lot of people. I think it's too thin. So FanDuel, he's fine. He's not a priority by any stretch. If you're going to play a Rocket, maybe it's him, but if Rockets you got to fade some teams. I mean, 6-game slate, I always try and fade a couple, make it a little easier for me. Rockets are one of them. So he's fine. I'm not going to go there probably.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. Again, awesome slate that we have today. Tons of different value plays on the slate. Title, I stole your play the other day, right? So, and I'll let you go first, right? I have two options to go to here. So, you're not gonna give two plays, I don't think. So I'll let you go first. And I had a feeling I was gonna steal your play, so I don't want to steal it. I'm being the good guy here. So Title, give me your SO play of the day.
Yeah, there's a couple I'm thinking of too. Some on the Pelicans, but I'm just going to avoid Stan Van Gundy completely. I definitely could have some in my lineups, but for the SO play, I never know what that guy's going to do. I'm going to go back to one of the OG SO guys in Jakob Poeltl at 5.3K on DraftKings. Drummond's a strong play at center now too. You can play double center. I think Jakob Poeltl is going to be very under-owned. That's how I'm going to get my Spurs exposure. They want to win. I'm hoping Pop runs out the starters. Jakob Poeltl, there's my Spurs exposure. 5,300, too cheap. I love his upside. Double incoming.
There you go. Title, not stealing my play. You love to see it. You almost went for the Pelican. You did not.
That's where you're going. I know it, right?
I'm not going to tell you which Pelican yet. First, I'm going to tell you, wait for BigT, JSU, and K Fallick. They're coming up next for the final countdown show. So don't miss that. Be sure to check that out. They're going to be breaking everything down for you guys leading up the lock. But now, Title, I'm going to give you one of the guards. And those were the two I was picking between. My number one was going to be Kira Lewis. And the reason why is he's just a 3.3K value. He's an interesting pivot off of some of these Celtic values and off of some of these Lakers guys that look like they're popping now as well. And I think Kira Lewis is definitely a strong play. I think he's someone that they give the minutes to. That's where I think Lonzo's minutes really get replaced. Sure, some might go to Nikhil a little bit too. He might pick up some minutes here and there, but I really think they get replaced by Kira Lewis. I think he has a big game. Give me him at 3.3K. He will be my play of the day. But that's going to wrap it up for us, Title. We didn't know if we'd make it the full hour. We didn't know if we'd have a random guest pop up, which did not pop up. So it was just a nice two-man booth, but we got the job done. We gave out our plays of the day. And now we got JSU, we got we got JSU, we got BigT, we got K Fallick coming up next. Title, before we get on out of here, give your final thoughts on the slate.
Yeah, it was a fun show. We an hour for a 6-game slate. I think we dove into all the games, all the plays we like. Celtics are very strong. I like the Pelicans, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kira Lewis. Obviously, Jakob Poeltl, SO play of the day. I think it's going to be a fun slate. Westy, Tatum. You guys, if you guys listen to this whole show, you guys know who we're on by now. Obviously, the slate did change a little bit with Lakers, so I'm going to get off the show, deep dive into that situation a little more. We'll be in Discord. You and I are both on the cash chart today on FanDuel, your DraftKings. Have core plays up on the site. Let's get in the winner's circle today. Couple of days left, NBA regular season. Let's get some shippers. Good mojo in the chat today. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us.
Yeah, we're grinding it out. And one last thing I'll say, Frank's in the chat. He says, I'm not a fan of Evan Fournier. Having this argument in Discord, I think he low-key stinks. That's why I don't want to rely on him. Frank, I'm going to say this. I played so many basketball players that I think are terrible, right? But when the usage is there, we still play terrible basketball players. So I would not let that line of thinking. If you don't like Evan Fournier because of certain reasons, that's fine. But if it's because you think he's like not good, like sometimes when the usage is there, I disagree with that. Title, what's your final thoughts on that? Because that's something I'm thinking through. I'm just a usage guy, and the usage is clearly there. And sometimes when you're a bad basketball player, I'm not saying he is, but if you think he's bad, sometimes it doesn't matter because you just have so much usage at your price. You just got to play him.
No, I totally hear you. The thing, like he's making a case to face someone that's very chalky, which you can always get behind. So he's 5,500 on DraftKings. He's 7,200 on FanDuel. Smart, Robert Williams, Brown, all these guys are out. So he's chalk for a reason. I think he's a very sharp play, but the ownership's going to come with it. And you can always make a case to fade someone that highly owned for someone that looked as bad as he did for that couple weeks stretch. So yeah, it's all your risk tolerance. If you're fine taking last, that's how you got to play tournaments, first or last. So you have the conviction. Don't let anyone talk you off it, because if he does bust, you're going to be very annoyed later.
All right, well, let's get on out of here. Let's make our way for the guys. They'll be leading you up to lock, JSU, Big T, and Kate Phallic. But we are going to see you later. For me, Mangone, and Title. Peace out.
Good luck, everybody.